Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm all right, thanks. I hesitated because of your name, and as like you said to me off air, people just get it wrong all the time, but I wanted to get it right.
Yes, it's Chilmi.
Yeah, I like it. Look, the obvious question is, and sorry if you've been asked this before, but where have you been? It's like you're born again almost. Like I know you've been overseas, but are you writing music or what have you been up to for the last, 10 years, say?
Well, I have been like releasing music. I kind of made the switch from being, I guess, more of like a mainstream artist
Okay.
um to doing things independently. So
Yeah.
it's I've still been making music the whole time, and I've just recorded a new record which will be out later this year.
Yeah.
But it's great to be back in Australia in particular, playing
Mm,
shows and
mm.
getting back into the live scene here.
Yeah, I thought you'd still been sort of doing music, but just on a lower profile, obviously, and it's just as satisfactory as, it's enough satisfaction to do that as it was when you first broke into the scene.
I think when I first started out, I was really young.
Yeah.
I was signed when I was 13, and Sweet About Me came out when I was 16. So it was definitely, you know, you when you sign to a major label at such a young age, and especially we're talking, 15 or so years ago,
Sure. Yeah.
it was a different time. Artists were it was definitely like a machine. And I guess I didn't expect the whole, everything else that came with it. I love
Yeah.
playing gigs and I love performing, but there's a whole things that go on behind the scenes that perhaps, I wasn't quite ready for or maybe mature enough to navigate. But
Yeah.
and so, things happen, and I think it was good for me to kind of take a step back and to like discover what kind of an artist, did I want to be and call the shots myself, because you have a lot of
Mm,
other people calling shots for you. Uh,
mm.
but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, as you said, you were 16.
Mm.
So things have changed. It's a different world, but you've also changed in a way that now, like you said, you can basically steer your own career rather than other people steering it for you.
Yeah, yeah, like the music industry has changed so much. I mean, when Sweet About Me came around, like there wasn't Spotify. Like
No.
Spotify didn't exist. And now can you imagine a world without it?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how things change in a certain amount of times. And things that used to fly, you know, 10 years ago, what would happen behind the scenes with artists doesn't fly anymore. Um, and that's why it's so lovely to be back. I'm playing Raw Festival, which is on International Women's Day here in
Yeah.
Melbourne in St Kilda, which is a festival that basically it's all about women supporting other women.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it's so interesting because I feel like when I started out, there was a lot of competition between women and a lot that was really encouraged by the media and people to get a bit of like controversy going. Whereas times have changed now. And I think it's so nice to feel that support from other women, especially.
Oh yeah, I'm really glad, not just like music and film industry, but
Yeah.
all industries. I mean, finally things have changed. It's still not 100%, obviously, and it may never be that way, but it's just such a change for the benefit of some of the terrible things and stories that I'd heard over the years as well. Like now, you just never would have heard of them before. Sad.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I set out to write this new record that I've been
Mm,
working on, I said to my publishers and people around me, I want to make sure that I'm writing, if I am writing with other people, that I'm writing with other women, that there are female engineers in the room, that there's, this kind of, and it's funny, when I was at these writing sessions, everybody had been through similar situations. So it's
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. But the new record, I mean, it has some songs on it that obviously have messages. Did it take long to write? Did you write lyrics on post-it notes and put it around your office? How did it work?
That did happen. Like there's one track that's called "No to a King," and that was like kind of scribbled and around. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll return to that later. And
Yeah.
sometimes it just sits with me on the bed with like a shaker in my hand and an idea
Oh
will
yeah.
come. Just it kind of just depends. But yeah, a lot of it was like just jotting down ideas that come to me and then kind of return to them at a later date. But normally
Yeah.
once there's like a chord or a few chords in place, melodies kind of start coming to me. Normally the melody comes first and then the lyrics come afterwards. So
Mm.
that's
Is it hard? Is it as getting older, is it harder to write lyrics or write music?
I think, especially on my first record, there it was a lot more, I guess lighthearted in the way that I'd approach writing a song.
Yeah.
Um, I used to like study records, like Blondie records, and just it was so fun. There was like a sense
Mm.
of fun in them. And I guess this time was different because I wanted to tell a story. And I felt like all of the songs were me kind of revisiting past versions of myself and communicating with her. And even as far as going back to the music that I fell in love with as a kid, like I used to love records from Janis Joplin and
Yeah.
even, a lot of female-led kind of more rock groups, even divinals. So
Yeah.
stuff and taking inspiration from that. But yeah, conversations with my past self definitely inspired this record.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to catch up with your past self. I mean,
Yeah.
like that'd
Yeah.
be a cool concept.
Yeah. It's funny because now I guess I'm 33. I can look back and embrace that younger self rather than be
Yeah.
angry for maybe not speaking up or just frustrated with her. So it was the right time to write this record.
Yeah. Would you say that you're still like at heart pop, but you've branched out into some other sort of styles of music, or is it always like a version of pop?
Yeah, I guess it's a version of pop, but when I guess, as a kid, I always wanted to be in bands. I don't know if it's like up in Melbourne, but I always thought of myself as like, I wanted to be the female Robert Plant, and Led Zeppelin were like my heroes. So I guess I do love, like, especially late 60s, early 70s kind of
Yeah.
rock, Woodstock kind of
Yeah.
kind of rock. So and soul music. So I guess that's always influencing my pop music, really.
Yeah.
Taking inspiration, you know, from the greats and then, classic kind of nostalgic music. And yeah.
You mentioned Spotify before, but I mean, there's such a resurgence now of vinyl. Do you collect any vinyl yourself? I'm guessing maybe, I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about like how I recorded my last record was to tape. So the whole process was basically we can make vinyl all the way using the kind of
Yep.
and like so we can kind of print vinyl the way it used to be done. So using no digital nothing. So when we eventually do go
Wow.
to make vinyl, we'll be bypassing that completely, which is really exciting. But I love vinyl, and everything does seem to sound better on vinyl. Um,
Seems to be. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Even the
I see some
newer,
vinyl in the back there.
yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
that folders or
That's
vinyl?
a lot of soundtracks there actually. In that's I've got others, but that's some of my like mostly soundtracks.
Yeah, that's
Speaking
awesome.
of which, soundtracks, movies, television shows, your songs, Sweet About Me has been in a lot of being used in a lot of soundtracks. Is that something that you're proud of? Like, does it happen spontaneously, or do the producers sort of like seek you out and say, can we use this song?
I think it just kind of, happens spontaneously. I know that Sweet About Me was used on like a Rexona advert for instance. And
I
that
didn't know that.
yeah, that's because the narrative in the commercial was the girl was like hanging upside down on a wire. And I think that the lyrics in Sweet About Me kind of worked with that.
Yeah,
It's definitely something that I think, you know, um, film can really
it,
inspire music and vice versa. And I'd love to, like, I love the Jesus Christ Superstar. It's more of a musical, but film soundtrack, the original.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love it so much. And oh God, there are so many films that also just inspire the feel of things.
Mm.
I remember watching a lot of like Italian neo-realism films when I
Mm.
a record I did called The Sting, and just visually that kind of can influence music and sound.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, some of those are old Italian films from the 60s and 70s. Some of their soundtracks were just amazing. And you watch them, mostly horror movies, but even
Yeah.
dramas and you know, there's great Italian musicals too, of course, but there's some terrific weird soundtracks out there that you could that like experimental, which are sort of coming back now, I guess you'd agree.
You know, on a more like classical level, there's at Sovereign Hill in Ballarat.
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing in Victoria. They're doing a an Ennio Morricone city.
Ennio Morricone?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Um, night there. Like, but I'm going to be in the UK by then. But I would have loved to have gone to that. That sounds so good. Um,
Yeah, it does. Like I'm unaware of I was unaware of that, but it piques my interest because he's you know there's a great composer,
uh,
obviously. Um, yeah, we'll have to seek that one out, Sovereign Hill.
yeah.
Now, I haven't even mentioned yet, you're supporting the band The Corrs.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Have you worked with them before, or how did this come about?
Um, it was just something that kind of my agent in Australia reached out and said, "Would you like to do these shows?" And yeah, obviously it was, a pretty big deal because I haven't played in Australia for like over 10 years. So
Yeah,
it's really exciting, really nerve-wracking. And I was lucky enough to go and see the Corrs in at the O2 Arena in London.
nice.
They were brilliant. It's like such a good live show. And obviously it's amazing to see women playing together and up front in
Mm,
a band and
mm,
just basically like hit after hit after hit. You don't
mm.
realize how many like hits that record had. And
Yeah.
I was actually in Dublin when I got the message if I to support them. So I was like, oh, it all seems like meant to be. So
That's
really
that's cool.
excited.
Were you in Dublin drinking some Guinness at a pub somewhere?
Actually, yeah, we were driving we were in Athlone, a city called Athlone, and we had like the best Guinness, and I'm obsessed with soda bread, which is Irish bread. It's so good. We were driving into Dublin and it was like really wet and rainy, and I got a message on my phone. So I was like, oh, exciting.
What can people expect from your set? Well, obviously it'll have that song, that amazing song of yours, but what else? Are you going to sing some covers or some of your originals that people might not have heard?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be playing a lot of new stuff actually, which is really exciting. I've got a great live band from
Yeah,
Melbourne that's gonna be playing with me. We're gonna be playing Powderfinger are one of my favorite bands. So we're gonna be throwing a cover in there
yeah,
of one of their tunes. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
yeah.
Bernard
No.
Fanning, if you're out there, I'd love to.
Uh,
I'd love to. I'd love to.
I mean, we've got similar tastes. Powderfinger, Silverchair, you know,
Yeah, love it.
those bands around that era were my, you know, Pearl Jam, and just in general, that era was I still listen to
Yeah,
all the
there's
time.
so much good music and yeah, so much good Australian music at that time.
Mm,
So good.
mm.
Yeah.
How do you keep the voice going? You know, this, I mean, can be harmful if you're not looking after it. So, what do you do, like to massage it or to keep it as good as new? Have you got any routines?
I do have to like work myself up to be gig fit. So yeah, just rehearsing and like lots of hot water and you know, if all else fails, whiskey will warm up the vocal cords and
Yeah,
get it going. But yeah, it does. I think the more you play, the kind of better the more fit you get. So I just need some more gigs, keep it going.
yeah. No, I'm sure that your name will be back in the limelight soon enough, and they'll say, "Oh, Gabriella, all grown up," you know, maybe, and that could be the case. It's hard to say because with the Australian music industry, I don't know, I'd like to know your thoughts, but I find the Australian music industry, there needs to be momentum sometimes, otherwise you can get forgotten. It's that kind of industry. Do you agree, or what
Think
do you think?
with every industry, especially, music, film, arts,
Yeah,
actors, musicians, we have a similar kind of it's all a bit of luck. It's all a gamble and a bit of luck. Yeah, you can have talent. Do you know how many talented people there are in this world? There are so many
yeah,
great writers, singers, actors.
yeah.
And it does just take somebody to believe in you and champion you and a bit of luck. I really believe that. And yeah, I just for me, I just got to keep doing what I love, and it's like the only thing I know how to do because I've been doing it since I was a kid. Um, and yeah,
What would you be doing if you weren't a performer? Is something like a occupation you wanted to do when you were a kid or anything, or has it always been singing and dancing and being
I
in the
always
music?
thought maybe a museum tour guide because
Yeah,
yeah, I quite like spending an afternoon in a museum, walking around and yeah,
cool.
an Egyptologist or a paleontologist or
Uh,
someone that spends time doing research or on a dig or in a museum.
Yeah, yeah, no, I actually know an actor who helps out at the Australian Museum.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, she does stuff like that. And I've personally worked at the Powerhouse Museum at Sydney for
Oh,
I did about 2.5 years there.
oh, that's,
It's now getting renovations. It's not open at the moment. It'll
yeah.
reopen eventually. But yeah, so I've done what you want to do. There
Oh,
you go.
there you go. Yeah, sounds good. Did you ever get stuck in there at night time?
Not really. I juggled with my journalist career, obviously, and did that every now and then. But no, I never got stuck there at night time like a night in the museum.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Oh, damn.
With movies, has acting ever been something you've been interested in or ever been offered, maybe? Or have you thought about you write songs? Could you write maybe a musical or a screenplay?
I think one day I'd love to, write music for a film. If there's like a narrative that came along that I really resonated with and thought I could bring something to the table, I think that would be amazing. I don't think acting's for me. I am not very good at like, an accent or like an emotion on cue.
Mm.
I'm not sure. I don't think that's something I could do, but yeah, maybe writing for one that would be fun.
So besides the Corrs gigs and the Raw gig, what else? Are you playing any other venues, or do you want to tell me? Are you going around all around Australia, or any side shows?
Not yet, but probably like middle of the year towards the end of the year. I'd love to come back and play my own show. So that's kind of in the works.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, just like promoting a new record, which
yeah.
will be, yeah, out this year. So we're just
And
like organizing all the details of that at the moment.
good stuff. Well, so mid-year, that means you'll be leaving the London summer to come to our winter.
Maybe, yeah. It might end up being more towards spring, summer, like if I'm thinking about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. That's good. It's probably the same kind of weather anyway.
Well, to wrap it up, a couple of quick questions, and I want to know, can you surf?
No. My
And
balance isn't very good.
that's okay. I'm a surfer, so I always ask my guests if they can surf. And the other one is what cooking? Can you cook, and do you have a specialty dish?
Wow, can I cook? I can cook. I can make puttanesca really well.
Oh,
So I can cook a good sauce. I think it's just in my blood.
yep.
Um, but I have been living in the UK and their national dish is curry, so I can cook in curry as well.
Well, you haven't changed much, like from that video clip that I remember being on loop almost when you first made it big. I mean, do people still just know you from that song and start singing it to you? Have you had any strange encounters?
I had any strange encounters. Oh no, sometimes somebody like might whistle the song around,
Oh yeah.
but but nothing too strange.